Hello, I'm EFTA Toycat and welcome back to the video. Today I have some more geography of Toycat for you all, and today's video is going to be one that's kind of a basic explanation of the European Union. It has been coming up a lot because there is a big referendum in the UK about it, and I guess people want to know exactly what's going on with the EU, so I figured I would talk about it. Because a lot of people don't truly understand all of the relationships between the EU. They think that there's 28 countries. If you don't know, it's most of Europe, but a lot of people don't know the countries that aren't in there, the ones that are kind of in there, and a lot of people don't know that not all the same rules apply to all European countries. There's levels of being in the European Union. So what I figured I'd do is I'd talk about the things that are for all countries, I'd talk about the things that are for certain countries, then talk about the things that are for even fewer countries and the way that whole kind of structure works, as well as talk about the countries that aren't in the EU and whether they'll be joining in the future. So yeah, this is kind of like a geography on the EU as a whole video. It's a little bit confusing, but hopefully you'll do enjoy it. If you do, second channel, don't guess. Always forget that one. But yeah, that said, let's get straight into it really, shall we? So let's start by talking about where the EU is. The EU is a collection of 28 countries, and it's easy enough to just go through the list. You can Google it if you want to. But if you want a rough look at where it is in the map, it'd be like here, cycle up, skip Norway, go around that, around Finland. Finland is the EU, go around all of these. Skip out Russia, of course, which is just chilling over there. Go around Poland, go around Romania, Bulgaria, Greece. You'll get Cyprus in there, go around to Malta. And then boom, that's kind of the EU, except then there's Switzerland chilling in the middle, leaving a massive hole. And also all of the Balkans are out there. But you get the point. The EU is the majority of European countries, with just a few exceptions, which is Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, the Balkan ones over here, and Turkey. Those are the big exceptions to countries not in the EU. There are some countries that are kind of in because they're in the EFTA, which is Norway, Iceland, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. For now, we'll kind of consider them being part of the EU because the first key part about the EU that is for all countries is that they all trade together and they have a free trade area. If you're from the UK and you want to trade to Iceland, you can do that. No tariffs, any of that stuff. And that's one of the core principles of the EU, so that any one of these countries can trade with any of the other ones. Also, any one of these 32 countries, if you're a citizen of them, you're a citizen of the EU, with the exception of those 4 other ones, and you can move to any of the other 32 countries in this big area. So if you want to, if you're from the UK, you can move to Norway as long as you have a way to support yourself. If you're from Norway, you can move to Romania as long as you have a way to support yourself. If you're from Romania, you can move to Iceland as long as you have a way to support yourself. I mean, that's a bit of a big move, but you get the point. You can move from any country to any other country as long as you can support yourself there. It's called freedom of movement, and it's one of the underlying principles of the EU, and it's one of the big reasons it came out, and that is something that applies to everyone. But from here onwards, things kind of get a bit messy because the other big principles of the EU kind of apply to different countries separately. So obviously there is the Parliament and all that other stuff, which does apply to everyone, but one of the really interesting things about the EU is there's the big stuff that you might assume is all the countries isn't actually all of them. So the first one here is Schengen. Schengen is named after a village in Luxembourg. I think it's over here. Yeah, here's Schengen. It's a tri-border point between France over here, Germany over here, and Luxembourg over here. So they signed an agreement on a boat for some reason. It was a publicity thing. The basic idea behind signing the agreement was to get rid of all borders in Europe. For the most part, it's only 22 of the 28 countries which have abolished borders, and then there's 4 countries which aren't in the European Union, which are part of this: Norway, Iceland, Switzerland, etc. And then there's 4 countries which are going to be joining it in future, because every EU country that joins has to join this borderless area, with 2 exceptions who got an opt-out in the 80s, the 90s, when it was all established, which is the UK and Ireland. UK said, yep, we're gonna keep those borders if that's okay, and then Ireland had to come along because the UK and Ireland have a separate border agreement, and yeah, that means that there's the whole of the EU doesn't have internal borders, kind of like a big national state like the US does, with the big exception of the UK and Ireland. The UK and Ireland do have our own separate border. It's not a land border, like if you look, then as you can see, nothing going on there. But when you come in by train or airport, you do have to go through passport control, like you are a foreign citizen still, which applies the other way around too. When you leave, you have to go through passport control. Just something you want to keep in mind as you go through all of this stuff. So yeah, with that said, there is a border between the UK and Ireland. The rest of the EU does not have a border, and that's kind of that right now. The other thing that you might know about Europe, that you might assume is every country, is the euro. The euro is the currency. It's controlled by the Eurozone, which is a specific group of the EU, where they all agreed to have the same currency. There's a whole bunch of benefits of having the same currency, the euro in this particular case, and those benefits are better trade and stuff, but there's a lot of downsides too. Having someone else control your currency is catastrophic for a lot of different reasons, as anyone who studies economics know, and the basic kind of thing here is certain countries have just agreed to stay out of that forever, but a lot of countries that are coming in now have to join the euro at some point, which is why Croatia is eventually switching to the euro, Romania is eventually switching to the euro, Bulgaria is too, and most countries have to. However, certain countries have got an opt-out, which is the UK and Denmark, and Sweden has a temporary opt-out, which they can last. They found a loophole where until they fulfill a certain criteria, they don't have to join the euro, and they're just trying for as long, they're trying as hard as they can to not fulfill that criteria. So yeah, essentially there's 3 countries which will never have to use use the euro. Every country outside the EU that are in the EFTA, Norway, Iceland, etc., have their own currency, but every other country is going to be joining the euro at some point, for the most part. It's all slowed down right now. Romania's kind of backing off on that, so it's Poland, etc., but they will be eventually joining the euro, so just something to keep in mind as you go forward. So, yeah, 28 countries, only 22 of them use the euro, 22 of them, 20, no, I think it's slightly less than 22, I think it's 20 use the euro, 22 of them are part of Schengen, 26 will be a part of Schengen, and then 4 countries which aren't in the EU or the FTA, because they're tiny countries, use the euro with no, just informally, like, so Monaco, Andorra, Rome, and San Marino all use the euro as their official currency, even though they're not a part of the Eurozone or Europe or anything, because they're tiny little countries. So just keep that in mind as we go forward, because now I want to... So that's the euro. It's a multi-layer system. The UK is not a part... it doesn't have to use the euro. It doesn't use... it doesn't have a borderless area, but yet it is a part of Europe. Just you need to keep that in mind as we go forward, because there is a lot of things that are in that same kind of vein where we are opted out just for reasons. And with that said, that is... kind of the moving point I want to go into for the next kind of area, because you might hear that and be like, okay, so the Europe is a multi-layer structure. You got like all the way in with like Germany, which is part of every single one of those things I just mentioned. You got kind of most of the way in with like Denmark, which is everything but the euro. You got like pretty far out with the UK, and then you've got really far out, which is Norway and Iceland, which are really just signed up to get the trade stuff, but they pay and they have to also sign the agreements, and also, because they're part of Schengen, they have the same kind of thing where anyone can go and move there with no border. So, again, keep that all in mind as we move into the next point I want to go into, which is which countries will be joining the EU in the future. Because, again, I said it was 28 countries. We could go through them all, like UK, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, blah, 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 all of these countries here. Which countries are going to be joining and which ones are not. So, right now, Ukraine is in the midst of a big crisis of because they had, a couple of revolutions about joining the EU. They're probably not going to be joining the EU anytime soon, but it is something the country is vaguely on track towards doing. Moldova is in the same place. They have a territorial dispute, so they have to fix that. But they want to be going in that direction. They're just not really going there very fast. One big exception to all the other countries we're saying is Belarus, which is very staunchly trying to side with Russia over the rest of the EU, which again, it's the only country in the entirety of the Europe we're talking about, which is that same way. There's a certain number of people that do want to join the EU, but they're a minority, not a majority, or anywhere close to majority. So, yeah, with that said, there's a few other countries which are joining soon. The soonest actual candidates are Bosnia and Herzegovina. I can't say your name. I'm sorry. They've got 3 presidents. It's a cool country. But yeah, Bosnia and Bosnia is going to be joining the EU at some point soon. They're the most likely soon candidate, followed after them by Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, Macedonia, and Turkey. However, one of the things you might not know about countries joining the EU is every single one of the 28 countries, or 29 or 30, or how many it is at the time, do have to agree. Any country has a veto, which means if one country has issue of something, they cannot join. So this is going to cause issues for Kosovo, because a lot of countries don't even acknowledge they exist. This is going to cause issues for Macedonia, because Greece has this weird thing of them where they force calling them the FYROM, the Former Yugoslav Republic. It's a messy whole thing, but yeah, basically Macedonia's going to have those issues. Montenegro and Albania, I believe, have the same thing, and Turkey is the biggest point of contention with the EU right now. And the reason for that is because a lot of countries want Turkey to join, and Turkey wants to join themselves, but a lot of countries really don't want Turkey to join. And the reason behind this is because most of the countries that have joined the EU, since the big ones, the UK, France, Germany, Spain, and Italy, are the vast majority of the EU by population. Like, they outweigh most other countries when you think of it like that. However, Turkey, if they did join, they would be the second biggest country in the EU, and within 5 years, so by the time they actually joined, they would be the biggest country in the EU. And this causes a big kind of crisis when you think about it. Imagine adding someone who's going to be able to outweigh most of you, and also there's some issues because they always just assume Germany would be the largest member of the EU when they set everything up. There's a maximum number of MPs and MEPs, and that does go to Germany, and that means Turkey, despite being bigger, would have the same number. And that's kind of just one of the issues I want to mention. The other big issue is that Turkey is massively different to the EU in a lot of different ways, and yeah, basically it pushes the number of Muslims from, I think it's like 1% of the population up to 10% of the EU population, and it adds just all these extra strains to the EU, and this is the big point of contention there right now. So yeah, what countries are in the EU? There's 28. Look up a list, it'll be easy. I'll do it for you. So, list of EU countries. There you go. Here's your list of... Oh look, that's nice, it shows you one like this. There's your list of EU countries. I don't know why it's putting... Okay, this isn't an EU country. You lied to me, Google. You lied to me. But with that said, the point I want to raise here, the most likely candidates for the future of the EU, right now, Bosnia is the only one in the serious stages of joining. Other countries are joining shortly: Macedonia, Serbia, Montenegro. Turkey is very, very far down the line, and kind of far down the line, but still getting quite close. Is obviously Kosovo, obviously Ukraine, obviously Moldova, and then really, really far down the line, and probably never, is Belarus. And the one country I just didn't even mention because I assume it was assumed is Russia. Russia and the EU have some pretty strained relations. At some point, there might be some great deal, but that's like, hundreds of years down the line. So yeah, where is the EU? That's always changing, and it depends on how you count it. What does being a member of the EU mean? It changes from state to state for the most part, because, different countries opt out of different things. And should the UK be in or out of the EU? We'll find out in a few days, won't we? So thank you all very much for watching the video. This was a different one, but... So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I have fun doing this. Next week, I might do, because, again, after that, 5 countries that might start existing, I was considering doing one for another continent, so... maybe that's what you'll see. Maybe there just won't be a video, because next week... no, in 2 weeks, I'll be in Denmark, so... won't that be lovely? Wait, I could show you where... no, I can't. I know, this is enough for today. Thank you very much for watching. Bye. Oh, I didn't hit the stop button. Oh. This is the worst ending to any video ever. Just pretend you didn't watch this last 20 seconds. Does that sound good? Yeah.